Listen Up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
Jim Potts back on the air. Hello, everybody out there. Well, look, every year we always get these calls regarding the holiday pay, etc. And so is what I did. I put together the most common questions that we have received. I pulled out emails, and there's about 8 common questions that I want to share with you about this business about getting holiday pay. So, since this is the time of the year for that, let's go ahead and start off with you understanding that what I'm getting ready to give you has nothing to do with collective bargaining agreements. All right? So collective bargaining agreements do not apply because the union contract could say something totally different. So let's talk about holiday pay. 8 things you should know about holiday pay. The first question is always the number one question. Do you have to pay for holidays? Understand that you are not required to pay non-exempt employees for holidays. Paid holidays is a discretionary benefit left entirely up to you. Now, exempt employees present a different challenge. The Fair Labor Standards Act does not permit employers to dock the salary of an exempt employee for holidays. You can make a holiday unpaid for exempt employees, but it will jeopardize their exempt status, at least for that week. That's very critical. When it comes to exempt employees, you have to remember anything that you do to interfere with their compensation package can impact their exempt status. So you always want to be careful about those things anytime you're docking an exempt employee's pay. All right. Number 2, what happens if a holiday falls on the employee's regularly scheduled days off, or when the holiday falls on when the business is closed? Again, while not required, many employers give employees the option of taking off another day if a holiday falls on the employee's regular day off. So if my regular day off is on Wednesday, the holiday's Wednesday, I can give them the option of saying, okay, we'll give you another day off with pay. Now, again, you're not required to do that, but stop and think for a moment about the morale issue, because people will feel that, well, why can other people get the pay for that day or get the benefit of that day and I cannot, because of the fact that that's my regularly scheduled day off. So what do? To be fair and to cut down on the morale issue, let them have another day off as their holiday. All right, that's an option for you. Okay? Now, this can also happen when employees work these compressed schedules, like these 4 10-hour days as compared to the 5 8-hour days. Now, there's also situations when employers observe a holiday on the preceding Friday or the following Monday when the holiday falls on a Saturday or Sunday and the business is normally not open. So that's another option under the same question that was posed. So if the holiday falls on Saturday or Sunday, you have an option. You can be closed on Friday or you can be closed on Monday. Again, these are the things that help keep down morale issues as well. Because if you have it listed in your handbook, you really do want to give them some benefit. Now, again, I'm giving you options here. All right? You don't have to do it. 3, this other one was, if we choose to pay non-exempt employees for holidays, can we require that they serve some introductory period to qualify? Well, again, that, in my opinion, goes back to your company handbook. What do you have in your company handbook regarding qualifying for holiday pay? A lot of businesses, and I write a lot of handbooks and review a lot of handbooks, will require that in order for them to benefit from the holiday, they don't qualify during the introductory period. Some people call it probationary period, but it's graduated away from that. So call it the introductory period. All right. So if they haven't satisfied the introductory period, then you do not have to do that. But again, make sure that in fact it is stated in your employee handbook. All right. All right. Number 4. Can we require employees to work holidays? Now, look. First of all, understanding that there are some businesses that operate 7 days a week, and as a part of that, of course, the business is still going to be open. So, of course, you can still require employees to work holidays. But understand also that because holidays are really discretionary, it's a discretionary benefit, you can also require that the employees work on the holiday. In fact, as I stated, the operational needs of the business may in fact dictate that the business will be open. If you think about it logically, you've got the entertainment industry, you've got the hotels that are open, restaurants that are open, rental car agencies, just to name a few of the industries out there that may be operating on a 7-day work week. All right. So yes, all right, they are a discretionary benefit, so you can do that. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Can we place conditions on the receipt of holiday pay? Well, once again, the answer to that question is yes. And as for an example, some employers are concerned that employees will combine a paid holiday with paid time off to create extended vacations. Now, look, the way that employers get around this, and again, I would encourage you to put that in your handbook. The way that they encourage them to get around that is to say that in order for you to get the holiday pay, you've got to work the day before the holiday and the day after a holiday. Now, along those same lines, if a person's out on vacation and the holiday falls while they're on their vacation, simply give them an additional vacation day. I mean, again, you want to be fair with the policies. All right? Now, how do paid holidays interact with the overtime rules for non-exempt employees? Okay, that was a very good question. If an employer provides paid holidays, it does not have to count the paid hours as hours worked for purposes of determining whether an employee is entitled to overtime compensation. Also, an employer does not have to pay overtime or the premium rates for holidays, also, although you may choose to do so. Now, let's just understand what the overtime rules are. The overtime rules, generally speaking, are over 8 hours a day or 40 hours in a work week. All right, that's just a basic rule. But that same rule says that it has to be for all hours worked. So as an example, if we've got 5 days of work we'll just say for Jim, and Jim calls in either sick on Wednesday or Jim uses a vacation day on Wednesday. But when Jim comes back in on Thursday, then Friday, and we say, you know what, we've got this project we have to get out, so I need you to work Saturday, even a half day Saturday. Those hours worked are not considered overtime. Even though he's been paid for the other 5 days, keep in mind that one of those days, which was Wednesday, was a paid day, but the person didn't physically work that day. So there would not be an overtime situation under those circumstances. All right? Okay. Number 7. Do you have to provide holiday pay for employees on FMLA leave? Well, look, first of all, understanding about FMLA leave, you treat FMLA leaves of absence the same as other non-FMLA leaves. What does that mean? It's simple. If you don't give out holiday pay for somebody that's not, all right, on an FMLA type of leave, they're on a different kind of leave, you got to be consistent. Normally in a handbook, the employer will put in the handbook that, in fact, that when you are out, you don't accrue vacation time, nor do you get the any holiday pay, any of those kind of benefits, because in essence, you're not at work, so you don't get to participate, with those kind of benefits, because simply you are not there. So that's what the difference would be. So, just to recap that one. You only have to pay an employee for holidays during an unpaid FMLA leave if you have a policy of providing holiday pay for employees on other types of paid leaves. Similarly, if an employee reduces his or her work schedule for intermittent FMLA leave, you may proportionally reduce any holiday pay, as long as you treat other non-FMLA leaves the same. That's what's critical. Otherwise, they'll be talking about retaliation as well. So you want to be careful. Now, if you notice, a lot of what I'm talking about is on a federal level, because I'm talking about FMLA, etc. So keep that in mind. And I mentioned earlier about the Fair Labor Standards Act. So because I have listeners outside of California, I like to talk about these kind of policies as being from a federal standpoint as opposed to just a state standpoint. All right, let's take a look at number 8 now, and the final question. If an employee takes a day off as a religious accommodation, does it have to be paid? Now, you know, from time to time I've had these discussions regarding religion and accommodations and things of that nature. Here's the situation: that an employer must reasonably accommodate an employee who sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance conflicts with the work requirement. Now, unless doing so would pose an undue hardship. One example of a reasonable accommodation is an unpaid time off for a religious holiday or observance. Unpaid is fine. Another is allowing the employee to use a vacation day for the observance. You know, we get those calls all the time, whether it's the regular holidays, etc. To me, I always say use common sense with this. You know, this business about, if they have a sincerely held religious belief. Well, who's going to sit down and try and figure out whether or not it's a sincerely held religious belief? Don't argue about it. If they say that this is my religion, this is what it is, and you want to make an accommodation, as we just talked about, that they get the day off without pay, or they get to use a vacation day, so what? Don't get hung up on it. Now, you heard me say a minute or two ago that what I'm giving you is on a federal standpoint. So I want to throw out a disclaimer. I want you to understand that the laws of your state may be different. So if you're considering adopting or changing a holiday pay policy in your organizations, or have questions about how your employees are being paid for the holidays or days off, it's always a good idea to consult with whoever it is that consults with you on those items. All right? Okay, I would like to think that I covered it all. The holidays are coming up. We know we got Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So let me put on my cop hat for a moment and tell you also to be careful drinking and driving around the holidays. Also look out for the other person, because even though you may not be a drinker yourself, there's going to be plenty of them out there. So watch out and be safe. All right, with that last comment, it's time to close out this segment, but let me remind you that you can also hear us on Facebook at Listen Up, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Fridays, or you can even email us, because of the fact that everybody doesn't always like to call in, afraid of the voices we recognize. We hear a lot of different things. So just remember, you can do it either way. And we can be reached at 855-4J-POTS or 855-457-6887. And when you email us, just remember you're emailing us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Okay, I'm Jim Potts. I will continue to fight the fight. Thanks for listening, and catch you next time.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Until next time, make it a great week.